Hello friends, this is Scott, and when I visit another garden, I like to always focus and showcase it. This is the standard classic small backyard with wooden raised beds. I love the look of this. In my yard it doesn't work because my yard is a little too narrow, and I have had some raised beds like these, but this yard looks good with these beds, and it produces lots and lots of food for the homeowners. This year they're getting a little bit of a late start, and I'm over helping them get the yard cleaned up. And I'm also checking out some treasures in here that I can use possibly in my own yard. So let's take a look at what we've got here to find. Now, the thing that I found in this garden that I do not ever find in my garden is overwintered mature onions. I always have the feel that I need to pull up every onion and use it timely. I've never left any in the ground. I do find some volunteers occasionally, but what I'm neglecting is by leaving a few of the mature ones in the ground is look at the beautiful transplants that you get out of a mature bulb that you just leave and let it overwinter. Here's a look at the beds. We brought in some of the yellow bags of dirt. We brought in a couple cubic yards with compost and topsoil, and we spruced up all these beds. And if you kind of look back, the beds right in front of us there were where the onions were. I went and I separated them all out and I replanted them, what would fit in a couple new beds for the homeowner. And I brought a bunch extras home and also gave some to some other family members for them to use at their house. One problem I always have is I always get so excited to plant vegetables in the spring that I always use up my summer areas for spring vegetables. Then I end up trying to find places into nooks and crannies to try to plant some of the summer vegetables. But a few videos back, I showed you the mint issue and why you plant mint in the garden in containers versus in the ground. And here's me digging up the rest of the volunteer mint in this one section. So they're new plants. They're only about a year old, so they dig up really easily. And I'm getting rid of them before they flower, so they won't be spreading their seed throughout the yard. But it's again shows you that mint is in 1 year just kind of decides it wants an area, it just kind of takes over. So I'm going to rake this area out and get ready for onion planting. Now all those onions that I brought home, just tons of them. Each bulb separates into maybe anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 plants. So there's lots. By leaving a few, you can get a lot for next year. So this is the best way to get the best transplants for onions that you could possibly find. There's no nursery where you're going to find this. Again, just leaving a few mature ones in the ground, and look how many new plants there are, and they're all large and significantly sized to get started in the garden. It'll be nice to test these versus the little bulbs that I bought that I planted elsewhere, and as well as I did buy some small little dried up plants that were dormant. But these are just living plants. They'll take a little while to establish, but out of this, I probably have 100, 125 onions I would guesstimate in here, and that's just the extra crop. And I'm going to leave some in here this year, so hopefully I will anyway. Like I say, I'm not very good at leaving plants. I like to pick everything, but it's hard to see a big onion in the ground and not use it. But I'm going to save some, because if I save 10 to 15 of those in the ground, I'm going to have all the transplants I need for next year probably. So that's the plan, and let's see if I stick to it. I didn't want to bore you with all speed planting, but here's the look at what I accomplished today out of what I got from my friend's yard. Tons of beautiful, beautiful transplants. These are going to I always run out of onion, and even with these I'll probably run out. But again, I'm going to try to leave some in so that I have some plants for next year, and so I can get a good head start on my onions. Again, you'll never find plants this healthy in a nursery. As always, I always water the crop in really good, just to make sure I've got it good and soaked in before I mulch, because mulch will repel water also and absorb water and not let it get to the root. So I always wanted to have them nice and soaked before I apply the mulch. In this case, I'm just using grass hay. And again, there could be some weed issues with this, but I'm not going to worry about it. If I have weeds, as you see behind me, I just feed them to the chickens. So it's always good to have a little extra green, a little extra nitrogen for the compost, as well as just to feed to the chickens, because there's times during the year that you don't have any green material to give them until you start picking, and that's usually more toward late summer, early fall. As always, I water the mulch in heavily, because I don't want the dry straw to wick moisture from the plants. And this will retain moisture, and I will not have to rewater this bed for maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, probably. We'll see how the weather goes. Here's a look at the freshly mulched bed. I probably used more than I needed to, but it's very loosely packed. It's not compacted. The plants can go right up through it. It's just there to retain moisture and block a little weed activity. So this bed is ready to go, and I expect to have a lot of onions this year. Here's Mr. Lincoln. He's been in and out of the video today, but he's always my companion and always checking things out in the garden. Now for a quick update on the onions I planted in my onion strawberry bed. As you can see, after the first week, you see some sprouting up already, and there's some strawberries coming up through the mulch. Again, it's very loosely applied. It's not going to restrict any plants from growing through it. Now here's a look at, after 1 week, what we got going on from the bulbs. As you see, there's a little bit of growth from the bulbs. Yep, they're coming up nicely. And I'm going to show you a little bit more progress a week later, and you'll see how well these onions have done in this bed. Approximately 2 weeks after planting, this is what the onion strawberry bed looks like. The plants have established themselves well. They're definitely reaching up for the sun. They're staying moist with the hay mulch. And they're going to be a productive crop this year, I believe. Well, thanks for watching this video, and overwinter some onions. You'll be surprised at how healthy the onions are the following year.